Warning. The information shared in these conversations and videos are intended for general knowledge and entertainment purposes only. It should not be considered as legal advice or professional guidance. Additionally, any documentation or references to specific content are solely for the purpose of discussion and understanding. It does not imply endorsement, promotion, or support of said content. The views expressed in these videos and or conversation are those of the individuals involved and do not represent any official stance or opinion. The content you are about to experience may contain strong language, including explicit words and phrases. This language is used for artistic expression and may be integral to the storyline or character development. It is important to note that the use of such language does not endorse or promote offensive behavior. Viewer discretion is advised, and please enjoy the show responsibly. Disclaimer. Copyright disclaimer under Section 107 of the Copyright Act 1976. Allowance is made for fair use for purposes such as criticism, comment, news reporting, teaching, scholarship, education, and research. The Canadian Copyright Act, Section 29, allows an individual to use copyright-protected materials when creating a new work, such as a mashup, and to post the new work online on a site like YouTube. Fair dealing provision for specific purposes like research, private study, education, parody, satire, criticism, review, and news reporting.
Hello and welcome today to Speakeasy Debates. We have on one end the one and only Speakeasy, host of the best verbal jiu-jitsu show in the internet called Verbal Combat and moderator of Swords of Reason. He's also a seasoned debater in his own right and promotes conservative values. He'll be today against the Kentucky Atheist. an atheist activist and community advocate. He has his own podcast called Politicality with Joan Leal. And he is a debater in his own right, and he advocates for the atheistic worldview. Today, we're going to have a debate on does right-wing Christian ideology promote racial bias? We're going to start the debate with 10-minute opening statements. This is uninterrupted. We're going to have a 5-minute rebuttal. After that, we have a 60-minute open dialogue that can be extended up to 60 minutes. And finally, we're going to have a 5-minute closing statements. So today I'm Emmett. I'm going to be just here moderating and hope that both of you have an excellent and amazing debate. For what I understand, the person who's going to be starting will be none other than you, the Kentucky Atheist. So whenever you're ready, I will press play.
I thought I was going first.
Oh, I'm sorry, easy. Then will be you the one who will be starting. So whenever you're ready, I will press play.
No worries. First off, shout out to Kentucky Atheist for coming through. I appreciate that. A lot of people tell me, email me, we'll debate. It doesn't happen. And then also shout out to Emmett for pulling through. We needed a moderator last minute, and he came and showed up. You can go ahead and start the timer. But yeah, tonight's debate, all right, asks whether right-wing Christian ideology promotes racial bias, right? The answer is simply no, right? What's fascinating about this debate is that my atheist opponent has to accuse Christianity of promoting racial bias while standing on a worldview that can't even explain why racial bias would be objectively wrong. Christianity begins with a radical claim. Every human being is made in the image of God. Every race, every ethnicity, every nation, every tribe, every tongue. Not because they're useful, not because they're productive, not because of some genetically superior genes. It's because they're human beings created by God. Christianity doesn't divide humanity into superior and inferior races. It unites humanity under a common creator. So, if Christianity promotes racial bias, I have a simple challenge. You have to show me the doctrine. Show me the creed, show me the church council, the teaching, show me where Christianity says one race possesses greater human worth than another. You can't, because it does not exist. What my opponent will do instead is to point to Christians who were racist. But that's like arguing that a traffic law promotes speeding because some drivers ignore them, right? The existence of hypocrites does not define the belief system. Now, here's where the things get interesting, because my opponent is an atheist, and atheism has a serious problem, okay? Under atheism, human beings are ultimately the product of unguided natural processes, right? No divine image, no objective dignity, no transcendental value, no universal human worth, just highly evolved organisms all fighting and competing for survival. And that's important because many of what the most influential racial theories in history emerged not from Christian theology, but from secular attempts to explain humanity through biology, evolution, and materialism. Once human beings become nothing more than advanced animals, right, we're inevitably going to begin ranking these animals. Who's stronger? Who's smarter? Who's more evolved? Who's more useful? Who's less useful? Christianity says every person has equal value because they're made by God. Materialism asks, what value does this person provide? One worldview begins with dignity, the other must try to invent it. The Christian worldview says a homeless man and a billionaire possess equal human worth. The atheist worldview struggles to explain why either possesses worth at all. And history reflects this. The abolitionist movement was overwhelmingly driven by Christians. Christian reformers fought slavery because they believed all men were made in God's image. Christian missionaries crossed oceans and preached to people that don't even speak the same language. Every race, because they believe every soul matters equally. If Christianity inherently promoted racial bias, why did Christian principles produce some of the most powerful anti-slavery and anti-racist movements in history? That's like arguing the cure is responsible for the disease, right? Now, let me say what I think my opponent's going to argue before we get there, okay? I think he's going to mention slavery. He's going to mention segregation. He's going to mention racist Christians. He's going to mention colonialism. He's going to mention some church somewhere that did something terrible. And I want to point this out. None of this will prove any of this claim. The debate isn't have Christians ever done racist things. The debate is, does right-wing Christian ideology promote racial bias? Those are completely different questions. If a doctor smokes cigarettes, that doesn't prove that medicine promotes smoking. If a police officer commits a crime, that doesn't prove law promotes crime. So if a Christian behaves racistly, that's not going to prove Christianity promotes racism. So to prove his case, my opponent must demonstrate that racial bias is embedded within the Christian doctrine itself. Not in the behavior of imperfect people, not in political history, not in some cultural failures, in the ideology. He won't be able to do it. He'll likely pivot and say Christianity was used to justify slavery. Of course it was, right? People have used nearly everything to justify nearly everything. The question is not what people justified. The question is what the ideology actually teaches. The same Christianity he blames for slavery has produced Wilberforce, abolitionism, civil rights activism, the argument that every human being possesses equal value, and that's before God. So which is better measure of an ideology? Those who violate it or those who consistently apply it? And then finally, my opponent faces a challenge he cannot escape. If God does not exist, if humans are cosmic accidents, if morality is merely a social construct, then tell me why racism is objectively wrong. Why is it not just unpopular, just not offensive or socially discouraged? What would be objectively wrong with calling every brown man a monkey, with calling every Asian man a chink, with calling every Mexican a beaner and every Jew a penny pitching con artist? What would be objectively wrong with this? Because unless he can answer that question, he's borrowing the very moral assumptions Christianity gave him while attacking the source. Christianity doesn't promote racial bias. It provides one of the strongest foundations ever conceived for rejecting it. And I can't wait to get into this back and forth.
Would that be the end of the opening statement, just to be sure?
Oh, yeah, sorry. And I'll concede the rest of my time.
Okay, then we're gonna move to Technical Atheist. Whenever you're ready, I will start the clock.
Okay. Hey everyone, Joe here from the Kentucky Atheist. Today I am taking the affirmative on the question, does right-wing Christian ideology promote racial bias? First, I want to thank Speakeasy for jumping into this debate with me. This is a heavy topic, so I want to lay my cards on the table right away about what we're actually talking about here. And if Speakeasy holds to some different definition of these words, when it's your turn, just let me know so we're not talking past each other. But I want to let you know what I mean when I say certain terms here. So when people hear the term racial bias, they immediately think of explicit racism, like someone shouting racial slurs or being intentionally hateful. Modern psychology and sociology show us that bias usually works a lot more quietly than that. It's not always this explicit racism. Implicit race bias would be it's a fancy term for unconscious stereotypes. It's the stuff baked in our brains that affects the way we react to people without us even realizing it. Even people who genuinely believe in equality can harbor implicit biases. You also hear me talk about systemic bias. This is what happens when those biases get baked straight into the system, into laws, housing, hiring practices, and the justice system. It's why minorities face massive disadvantages, even if no one is explicitly saying racist things to their face. Right-wing Christian ideology. To be totally clear, I'm not talking about your grandma's private faith or people who just want to go to church on Sunday. I'm talking about a specific, highly organized political movement that tries to fuse conservative politics with Christian nationalism. Over the next few minutes, I'm going to show you that this specific movement doesn't just cross paths with racial bias, it actually drives it. And I'm going to prove it using 3 pillars: history, statistics, and organizations. So let's start with the history. There's a lot of revisionist history out there. If you ask people today how the modern religious right got started, they'll usually tell you it was a moral crusade against abortion or school prayer. But that's flat out historically incorrect. The modern political movement of the Christian right was actually born as a direct defense against racial segregation. Back in the 1950s, after the Supreme Court passed Brown versus Board of Education, it outlawed segregated schools. Evangelical leaders all across the South didn't celebrate. Instead, they scrambled to open thousands of private Christian schools that historians literally call segregation academies. Does that sound familiar? The whole point was to use a private Christian label to keep white kids away from black kids. The real spark that mobilized the whole movement into politics happened when the IRS threatened to pull the tax exempt status of Bob Jones University. Why? Because the university banned interracial dating. Leaders like Jerry Falwell Sr. and Paul Weyrich looked at that fight and realized they could use the defense of these segregated Christian schools to rally white evangelicals into massive unified political voting bloc. The very foundation of right-wing Christian politics was built to protect white institutional privilege. Back in the 1950s and 60s, mainstream conservative pastors weren't just quietly disagreeing with Martin Luther King Jr., they were using conservative Christian theology to actively fight the civil rights movement. Prominent voices literally preached from the pulpit that God was the original segregationist because he separated the nations at the Tower of Babel. They argued that integration was ungodly sin and against the divine order. This created a multi-generational framework where protecting racial boundaries wasn't just a political stance, it was taught as holy duty. You simply cannot separate the modern right-wing Christian movement from the racial biases it was literally invented to protect. My second pillar is modern data. So, you might say that those things were 70 years ago, and that's not the way it is now. But data that we have now shows us that this history didn't just vanish, it evolved into what we now call Christian nationalism. A massive 2023 study done jointly by the Public Religion Research Institute, or PRRI, and the Brookings Institution looked right under the hood of this movement. They found that nearly 2/3 of white evangelical Protestants qualify as either Christian nationalism adherents or sympathizers. Over half of all Republicans fit that description too. To put that in perspective, you're 4 times more likely to find a Christian nationalist on the political right than anywhere else. But there is an absolute smoking gun in that data. The study asked people to agree or disagree with this exact quote: God intended America to be a new promised land where European Christians could create a society. Now, 2/3 of general Americans, 2/3 of the general American public reject this idea completely, but a staggering 83% of core Christian nationalist adherents agree with it. Let's be clear here. European is not a theological term. It's a racial category. It means white. Over 80% of a massive political religious movement explicitly believes that God wants America to belong to white Christians. That ideology is by definition promoting and validating racial bias. My third pillar, I will argue, we have to look at what happens when you take this ideology to its logical, unchecked conclusion. There's a direct pipeline where radical, violent, white supremacist groups find their main justification in right-wing Christian theology. The Aryan Nations, founded by Richard Butler, was a group, literally a political arm of the church. They used Christian identity theology to teach that white Europeans are God's actual chosen people, while non-white people are subhuman mud peoples. They used this exact religious framework to bridge the gap into broader right-wing militia movements of the 80s and 90s. the Nazi Party, or KKK as you know it now, led by a licensed Christian identity minister named Thomas Robb. This branch of the Klan did something highly strategic. They traded their robes for business suits and deliberately started copying the mainstream religious right. They took explicit white supremacy and repackaged it using standard right-wing talking points like anti-immigration, anti-LGBTQ+, and protecting traditional family values to call it heritage protection. Elohim City, this is a heavily armed Christian community in Oklahoma. Their spiritual leader taught that physical racial segregation was mandatory Christian duty. Because of that shared right-wing religious ideology, Elohim City became a physical sanctuary for some of the most violent domestic terrorists in the U.S. history, including Timothy McVeigh before the Oklahoma City bombing. These aren't just isolated secular cults. These are organizations that explicitly use right-wing Christian ideology to justify their hatred, pulling from the exact same pool of European Christian supremacy, and mainstream polling exposes this. Look, when you tie it all together, from its origins as a legal shield for segregation to modern polling where 83% of followers say America belongs to white Europeans, down to the radical extremist groups weaponizing its theology, right-wing Christian ideology doesn't just accidentally stumble into racial bias, it actively bursts it, sustains it, and promotes it. Thanks for listening, and I look forward to the rest of the debate. Yield the rest of my time.
Thank you so much for both of you with the opening statements. I will remind everybody that at the end of the debate, we have a Q&A session. It's going to be 30 minutes. All super chats will be prioritized, so be taking your wallet out and be using your husband's credit card so you can ask any questions that you want. We're going to start with the rebuttals. Whenever you are ready, Easy.
All right. All right. So my opponent spent this entire opening proving something I never disputed. He proved that some Christians have held racist views. All right. Congratulations, though. That's exactly what I said was going to happen. This debate is whether right-wing Christian ideology promotes racial bias. Right. You still haven't shown a single Christian doctrine that teaches racial superiority. Right. Not one. Instead, we get Jerry Falwell, KKK, Aryan Nations, Elohim City. These are examples of people, not the doctrine, not theology, not Christian teaching. Right? Do you drink water? Well, guess what? Hitler drank water too. I guess anybody who drinks water is horrible. I don't see this thing. This is equivalent of me arguing that you promote mass murder because Stalin was an atheist. So, I mean, that must be what you promote. Right? Or secularism promotes eugenics because eugenicists are all secular. Right? That democracy promotes corruption because corrupt politicians exist. Right? This is a ridiculous standard to hold. Right? The actions of followers do not automatically define the ideology. Right? So you try to move the goalpost by saying racial bias doesn't have to be explicit. That's fine. Right? Even if we accept that, you still have to show that Christian doctrine itself creates this implicit racial bias. Right? So where is that? We got to know, where's that doctrine teaching whites are superior, or that blacks are inferior? Where's the doctrine teaching unequal human worth? Right? The reason you can't produce this is because it doesn't exist. Right? What we're doing here is we're redefining Christianity as Christian nationalism, then redefine Christian nationalism as white nationalism, then redefine white nationalism as Christianity. That's what you're doing with this, right? Like this is not an argument. It's a game of telephone. You know what I mean? Christian nationalism is a political theory concerning relationship between Christianity and the national identity. That whether someone agrees with it or not, it's not equivalent or synonymous with racial supremacies. Right? America's not a race. Canada's not a race. England's not a race. Nations aren't races. We're gonna get into that after too. I don't think you can tell me what a race is, right? He also the polling data that some white Christians, where is it, believe God wants Europe or America to remain predominantly European, which is white. Like, even if that was to exist, that wouldn't be evidence that Christianity promotes racial bias, right? Like, that's like, that would be at best that some Christians hold certain political opinions, right? I can tell you right now, I'm for Christian nationalism. That wouldn't mean that Christianity teaches that, right? So again, you're proving things about Christians, not Christianity. And this is where the entire thing falls apart, right? If we're allowed to judge ideologies by their worst adherents, you have huge problems, right? Again, should we judge atheism by Stalin or secularism by take your pick, right? Should I judge materialism by the 20th century eugenics movements we got going on right now? Should I judge evolutionary theories by the racial hierarchies they were used to justify, right? Remember the crack in the skull of the black people? Christianity didn't teach that. That was biology, evolution, right? So like, you have a huge problem here. There's a whole bunch here, and I have here still to respond, but we'll get into that in the opening. But yeah, I think you've run into a huge problem here. And I'll see the rest of my time there.
Thank you very much. For that, we're gonna go ahead and just reset the timer. Whenever you are ready, the Kentucky Atheist, just to start. Whenever you start.
All right. So basically, excuse me, what?
Oh, my apologies. I was just gonna say that whenever you start talking, I will start the timer. I will reset it, and whenever you start talking, I will start it. Okay?
I'll go, man. All right. So essentially, what you did is make a whole big no true Scotsman fallacy about Christianity. I'm not here to debate about what's in people's hearts or whether the Bible's a good book, or whether it explicitly teaches racism, because that's not the question here. The question literally ties together right wing and Christianity into a single ideology. And I showed you, I gave statistics from a study that shows that 80% of the people that agree with those two things together are Christian nationalists. So I didn't redefine anything. That's the definitions. This is about a real world political movement that is affecting everybody, and it's called the Christian right. I'm not saying that Christianity inherently causes racism, and I'm not arguing about Christianity here. This is about the religious right, or right-wing Christian nationalism is what the question asks. So that's what I brought to it. And whether it explicitly says, racial slurs and all of those things, that the ideology itself functions this way in society. Your idealized version of what that isn't actually the way that it functions, or what people who were asked in multiple huge surveys agreed with. The things about European white Europeans, they were asked the question and they agreed with it. The 80% of the 80% of Republicans that are Christian nationalists. So it's very much the point of this debate. And you seem to continue to put forward this idea that if the Bible and its teachings don't just give racial slurs, that it can't be used to promote racial bias. And that's just not the case. The history is there. The statistics are there. You have to deal with those statistics in some way in order to say that that's not the case. what else? In your opening, you tried to make this about atheism versus Christianity, and I don't care to have that conversation, but it's not really like what we're talking about today. I don't care to get into that in the back and forth if you want. But you also said that Christians promoted the biggest anti-slavery movement. They also promoted the slavery that movement had to get rid of. So you have this changing ideology there based on static text. Christians and everyone else have done racist things, I'm sure, but to say that ideology doesn't allow for it is just not what we see. The ideology teaches that it's not the question whether the ideology promotes racial bias. I already answered that. You brought up objective morals and stuff in your opening. I don't know what to do with that. That's not what we're here to talk about. But again, if you want to discuss my position on morality and stuff during the back and forth, I don't care to. Some Christians held racist values is just it's a fallacy to escape all of the information I gave in my opening, and I'll concede the rest of my time.
Okay, thank you very much for the rebuttals. The rebuttals for both of you. I'm gonna go ahead and start with the 60 minutes. I'm gonna put it up in the screen. Once I press play, both of you are oh, my apologies. I'm trying to get this done. When I press play, both of you are open to start talking when you're ready. Once again, thank you to both of you for the debate, and keep it above the belt. You are killing it.
All right. Well, let me ask something. Okay, let me just point out something here, right? So, seems to me you're completely. I know you're saying you're talking about right-wing Christianity, right? So you're not just. Are you conceding to the point that Christianity doesn't, like, you're not arguing Christianity promotes racial bias?
No, I could make that argument too, but I am saying that the right-wing Christian ideology does promote racial bias. Christianity on its own, I think Christianity and right-wing ideology both individually promote racial bias, and we can talk about how they do that. But I wouldn't say. I'm not saying that every Christian goes around yelling slurs, though, in order to do that.
Right, but are you saying Christianity itself? Like, because it seemed like you just said, I'm not going to get into, you pulled a no true Scotsman, and I'm not going to get into you about Christian ideology. It's about right-wing Christian ideology, right? So, like, it seems like you're arguing some people who identify as right-wing Christians promote racial bias.
Well, so there's a difference between Christianity as a religious belief system and right-wing Christian ideology. They aren't the same thing.
Okay, so just to be clear, then, are you okay then to say that Christianity doesn't promote racial bias, and we can move on? I can just
it doesn't explicitly do it. Yeah, Christianity has implicit racial bias within some of it. I don't think it's a goal of it to promote it. It's one of these things that takes place throughout the entire Bible, though, with chosen peoples and promoting xenophobia and all that stuff. So we can talk about the ways that Christianity does that, but that's separate from the right-wing ideology, the right-wing Christian ideology that we have in America. That's not the same thing. It's not Christianity. It's right-wing Christianity.
Okay, fine. You know what? I get it, and you know what? I don't want to do the debate thing, the definition debate thing either with you. I'm going to grant that the KKK was Christian, Aryan Nations was Christian, all the segregationists, they all called themselves Christians. Fine. Prove right wing Christian ideology promotes racial bias. Right? All you're doing is pointing to extremists. Right? Can I say, like I brought this up earlier, if I argue secularism promotes eugenics because eugenicists were secular, you're gonna just, or atheism promotes genocide because Stalin was atheist. Are you okay with that?
See, you're missing the point here. I'm not saying that it promotes racial bias because there were racists in Christianity. That's never the point I made. That's never anything I said.
But that's what I'm saying as your proof. You're saying right-wing ideology, right-wing Christian ideology promotes racial bias. Here's some racially biased people that say they're right-wing Christians. That doesn't show what about the ideology says that? Where is that?
So I explained to you how they use that ideology to then promote those things. It's not an
guilt by association.
It's not an accident that all of these right-wing white supremacist groups found homes in both Christianity and right-wing ideology. It's not by accident that every one of them falls in there.
Every one of them. That's so. If I can point to one that doesn't, you lose.
That would falsify every one of them. I mean, nearly all.
Okay, so nearly all. Now
you'll have a job finding one left-wing white supremacist group, though.
Okay, well let's go to this here. Let me give you this for a minute, because you say like Christian nationalism you brought up. All right, I'm for Christian nationalism. Why? Where is Christian nationalism equal racial nationalism? Why are you using them like they're interchangeable?
So Christian nationalism, this huge study I pointed to, a joint study by two huge institutions, found that Christian nationalists, once we identified who the Christian nationalists are, which are 80% of right-wing Republicans, 80% of those people agreed with racial biases towards America, that it's a European Christian country, for European Christians. They agreed with that statement. So
how many people
you
are
can't
in
just
this
say it's some fringe group of people.
I mean, it's weird because it's like a poll. Like, I mean, anybody can just lie and say anything on this poll, right? But how many people was it?
Show that. I think it was 6,000 people, 6,000 Republicans from PRRI, and I would have to get the numbers for you from.
How do I know that's not just a bunch of left-wing Democrats just trying to infiltrate and screw up the culture on the right?
Because they give their methodology at the end of the paper. You can go pull it up and read it yourself. Just search PRRI and it'll probably be the first thing that comes up.
Okay, so this poll says 6,000 people said that they want the nation to be a European nation, and that means white.
Yeah. I mean, what do you think that means other than white?
Europe is a nation, right? Nations and what is a race? I bet you can't tell me.
Are you asking for a scientific explanation of a race, or are you asking for the?
Is there a scientific explanation for a race?
Yeah, races don't exist scientifically because we're all Homo sapiens.
Right.
We're all people of the same race. Racial bias, when we talk about that within society, though, is based on people's skin color and locality. Sometimes even religion, it can fall under racial bias.
So, like, you telling people that Christian right-wing ideology promotes racial bias could be considered racially biased?
No. What I mean when I say
why not
that is if you see a Iranian person walking through the airport and you assume that person is Muslim just because of their skin tone, you are using implicit racial bias to do that. That's what I mean. Racial bias exists both implicitly and explicitly. It's not just yelling slurs at people.
Okay, so how is it like? So if someone advocates for a Christian nation, how does that automatically imply racial bias without pointing to this poll? Because like I just don't accept this poll. Like this is just because this poll said this doesn't mean that like that's 6,000 people. You know how many people are in the planet? That's not a big poll. You know how many people are just in America?
That's a pretty big
6,000 is a
That's a
tiny
pretty big poll
sample.
for American Republicans. Yeah.
I
And
don't
it's two
know.
different institutions talking to different people. Again, their methodology's there, and this poll is one of the most cited polls in talking about this subject. You don't have to accept anything, but that's where you're at. You're sitting here refusing to accept statistics in order to make your point.
No, even if I
You
accept it,
challenged
I've
me to
told
this
you this
debate
already.
as the
Even if
most
I
source
accept
on
this, I'll accept this poll. I'll say this poll is 100% true. That is just saying people who identify as right-wing Christians also say they want to be they're also racially biased. That's not saying the ideology itself is racially biased or promotes any type of racial bias, implies it. Where is the ideology itself? Say that. If I want a right-wing
So the
Christian
poll.
nation, listen, if I want a right-wing Christian nation, that's my ideology right now. I want a right-wing Christian nation. Where in that ideology does it say I want white people only?
What are they talking about when they say European Christian nation? What does that mean?
People that came from Europe.
Right. And what are people that came from Europe?
It's a location, not a
So
race.
the let me
There's a lot of black people, brown people. There's a lot of
well,
Europeans that are brown and black. You know that, right?
Just real quick, if you want any clarification on the methodology, I can read it. I got a summary from Grok, but if you want it, I can read it.
Sure. What's the methodology?
For what I can see, it says that Ipsos Knowledge Panel. So the sample was a 2022-2023 Christian Nationalist Survey. It was there's an AVA report that is a larger sample with 22,000 people, but the one that's mostly used is the 6,000 to 5,400 to 6,000 adults. It was an online interviews. It was pre and post certification to match the current population, and it was 5 question: the U.S. government should declare Americans a Christian nation. U.S. law should be based on Christian values. If the U.S. moves away from our Christian foundations, we won't have a country anymore. Being Christian is an important part of being truly American, and God has called Christians to exercise dominion over all areas of American society. And those are the questions. They change it by adherents, sympathizers, skeptics, and rejectors. Those were the categories. So if you want anything more, I can post it in the back chat for your
Yeah, like I said, even if I just accept this study, a bunch of them said they want a European. European is a cultural, historical, civilizational, locational term, right? This isn't a white is a racial term that is made up. It's a descriptor for somebody's skin. There's white Australians. Are they Europeans? No, right? So like this doesn't
no, but
even.
Europeans are white.
No, not all Europeans are white. That's crazy. Wait, a black British Christian can't be European? You with us, Joe?
No, I cut out there. Sorry.
Oh, okay. Is a black
I missed the last thing you said there.
is a black British Christian European or a black French Christian European? Can they be European?
Do Europeans of other colors exist? Sure, but whenever people say European, historically that's been tied to the white race. It's the same lines that the KKK uses. A European race like this. You're just denying like factual things in order to make this point. Like this has been known for a long time.
I just asked you a question and you even agreed with me. A black British Christian can be culturally European. That's what European is. It's an ethnic, cultural, historical term. Has nothing to do with race.
Right. So just
many. So where do you think? How do you think Europeans started? Do you don't think immigrants went there and became Europeans?
Just because Europeans exist that are not white does not mean that whenever people say European race, they're not talking about the white race, because they absolutely are. This is a huge thing in white supremacist groups. Like this is the thing they promote. White supremacist groups promote this all day long. They say it out loud.
So you're a mind reader.
Look it up, man. Like look it up instead of just you're making a fool of yourself.
I'm not making a fool of myself. Like I've done this.
Groups do this.
White supremacist groups. So what? Like I said, we can go back to Stalin. He was an atheist, or Mao. He was like. We can go back to horrible fucking people that are atheists too. Does that mean atheism is promoting this?
No, it means there's something about right-wing Christian ideology that 80% of the people want a white European country.
No, you just snuck in the word white.
It means
you just snuck in the word white. You just snuck in the word white. It doesn't say that. On your study, it doesn't say white. It says European. On your study that you gave us, it says European, not white. Right?
Again, you know, like this is
like you've already conceded race doesn't exist.
To promote racial bias for decades and decades and decades. You can ignore it. It's fine. Like whatever. You're even the KKK would disagree with you on this. Like the white supremacists disagree with you.
Wait,
on what
listen,
European
I gave this to you. I've granted that some people, when they say European, they can mean white. That still doesn't prove right-wing Christian ideology promotes racial bias. At most, it proves some right-wing Christians hold racially motivated views. Can a black Christian nationalist exist?
Oh.
No?
Yeah. Christian nationalists can exist on the left even. It's not a thing completely unique to the right, but 80% of the right identifies as Christian nationalists. Like pointing and saying that there's racism in other places, I agree. I'll give you that. Racial bias is not only promoted by right-wing Christian ideology.
So Christian nationalism isn't inherently white nationalism, right?
I mean, I think it's arguable.
It's arguable. Can
That's
a black
let's
go back. Can a black Christian nationalist exist?
Sure.
Then Christian nationalism isn't inherently white nationalism.
That is a fallacy. Right?
Then you're claiming what? Race determines. So race determines whether someone can hold a political theology?
No, you tried to do that just now,
that's what you're saying. Black Christian nationalists.
I've never said that.
Christian
I've never
nationalism.
said that these people had to be white.
That's the entailment. That's the entailment, right? Black Christian nationalism can exist. Therefore, Christian nationalism isn't inherently white nationalism. But you say, well, no. So that would be saying that the race determines whether you can hold the political theology. How can a black
All right,
nationalist? Go ahead.
So one of the things so whenever I said European Christian society, and you're making the point that like, oh well, if there's Europeans that aren't white or whatever, that it changes that. But if you go and actually look through that study, it gives you tons of statistics. Majority of Christian national adherents disagree that white supremacy is a major problem, the denial of white supremacy. 7 in 10 Christian nationalism adherents embrace so-called replacement theory, which is definitely racial bias. Nearly a quarter of Christian nationalist adherents believe the stereotypes of Jewish people in nationalism, the stereotypes that Jewish people in America hold too many positions of power. Like there's all of these racist statistics contained in there, and you want to argue that they're not using the meaning of a term that it is constantly used to mean. Like that you're trying to give one example of somebody who's a Christian nationalist who isn't who doesn't practice racial bias. But here's the problem. Most people who are not on the right reject Christian nationalism and all that other stuff completely. Like 1 in 10 is the numbers you come up with that agree with those terms outside of the right wing. The right wing overwhelmingly agrees with those things.
Okay, listen. Again, so now you want to stay bogged down in this, so let's grant it. All right. I'm going to say European means white. Are you going to go on to prove your case now, or that doesn't prove your case? You know that, right?
What would you like me to prove to you?
I want you to prove that right-wing Christian ideology itself promotes the racial bias, not that some right-wing Christians want majority white countries.
80%.
Sure.
80% of them.
Sure. 80% of them. Yep.
I'm done.
And what?
That's it. That proves the point, man.
Like,
no, overwhelmingly, the majority.
No, to prove racial bias, you have to show that the ideology teaches unequal human worth, unequal moral value, a racial superiority. Where is that?
False.
Where is that in the ideology? You're talking about the ideology, not the people. Not the people that say they are these things.
That's why I gave the definition of implicit racial bias.
A lot of dudes are running around saying they're women. That doesn't make them women, right? So I don't care that these Christian nationalists are saying they want all whites. Don't care. I want the ideology. Where does it teach that?
It doesn't have to directly teach that people
that
they want all whites. It's called implicit racism. It's the definition of racial bias. It is in the definition, man. Like that's why I gave the definition right up front, because I knew this is what you would do. You would have to deny.
Where is the racism implied? Where's the racial bias implied in the ideology?
In their history, in the statistics of what they believe, and in the organizations that they hold to. That's literally the whole argument that I made in this. And I gave you plenty of examples of that. You're like trying to squirm out of this by saying that racial bias has to be somebody calling someone a racial slur, or that it has to teach directly that only white people are good. And that's just not true. We have all kinds of racial laws in the United States baked into the system. We had to make laws in order to stop some of those in the South, which is a recent thing in the news too. But
so if I would like my little nation of my home, right, in my little nation of my home, if I would like this, right, to remain majority my genetics, right, my family, majority mine, does that mean I'm saying my family and my genetics are superior to everyone? Or is this just me trying to keep a preservation on my nation? If I say a Japanese nation should remain majority Japanese, am I saying Japanese people are superior to everyone else? Is that equal?
Well, you would have to answer the question of why you want your genetics to be the prominent case. Like, there were people here before white people, and we're a nation of immigrants from all over the world, including people of many different colors, religious groups, and different ethnic groups. So, like, why is it that it should be your genetics?
I just want it. It's my preference. I just want this. Say that. I just want it. I just want. I just want.
No, we shouldn't do that.
I just want Greece. I just want Greece to remain majority Greek. Am I saying that Greeks are superior?
Kinda, yeah. I mean, you have to have a reason for
kinda,
wanting
yeah.
that.
How?
And your reason is you favor Greeks. Oh, yeah. So yeah. So
Really?
that is literally implicit, right? So you're baking it into your thing here. Whether you mean it to be a racial thing, whenever you exclude other racial groups,
So preferences prove biases.
You are
Preferences prove biases.
Bias. You literally created a bias. You said, I'm biased to Greek people. I'm biased to my genetics. You literally did it. Like,
are you a virgin?
Like, that is the thing that we just talked about.
I have a point to this question. You don't have to answer if you don't want to. Are you a virgin? You don't have, if you don't want to answer.
Yeah, I'm a virgin.
Are you? Oh, okay. Okay, I can't ask you that question. Have you ever kissed a girl?
I mean, look, man. Look, look.
You know where it's going.
I'm not going to take you.
You know where it's going, don't you?
Who wants to hurl personal insults rather than engage in the topic.
No, it's not about personal insults. I promise you. I promise you. I promise. No, I promise you. I promise you. It had nothing to do with it. This was going to be my point. I was going to ask you after if you ever slept with a black woman. And if you told me no, I was going to say, so that means you're biased. That means you think that white women are superior to black women because you prefer white women. That's what you're doing right now. A preference doesn't prove a bias. You understand? That's what I was trying to do. I wasn't trying to be personal with you at all. I promise that.
Look, man. I'm not against the idea of it. First of all, but black women ain't tripping over themselves to come to Eastern Kentucky, right? And fuck a fat guy. So, like,
I don't know.
You know,
you know, it was white boy summer last year. All right, you better.
I've been in a relationship with my baby's mom for 13 years. So
that's amazing. I'm glad to hear that.
I'm not having sex with any other women.
That's amazing. I'm glad to hear that. Congrats. But you understand why I was just trying to make a point of if you were to tell some guy that because he's never slept with an Asian woman, that he must think that whoever he has slept with is superior, that would be an unfair statement. And just because someone says I want Europe to remain in a majority Europeans, and even if they mean white, sure, okay, that doesn't mean they saying white is superior to everyone. They just want their country to remain a certain way.
So there could be an implicit racial bias there, depending on the reason why they feel that way. Like if they say, I think Asian women are gross, like, yeah, of course. But it depends on the reasoning there. I mean, people love who they love. I mean, that's just how that is. Like, it's not, I don't even think people are choosing that. So
yeah, but even if you were to say, I think that white women are more aesthetically pleasing when it comes to the different colors of women. That wouldn't mean you're saying white women are superior. That you're just that's your preference of who's pleasing to your eye, and that's what we're doing here. You're saying that these people's preference equals a racial bias, but that's just not the case.
Not all biases are harmful though, right? Like you can prefer a certain like blondes or whatever. That doesn't mean that you're being biased to other people. You're just attracted to what you're attracted to, and you're being honest about that. It's not a harmful racial bias in that case.
And I think that comes the same when it comes to culture. Would you not like? Do you equal race and culture the same thing?
No.
Right. So this is what I'm trying to argue here.
It depends on the person, how they use it.
I think a lot of these times when it comes to
quite
nationalism, it's about preserving the nation and the culture of that nation. It's nothing to do with the race. People love like
when 80.
Go ahead.
That they don't want to preserve the American nation. They want a European Christian nation, which again, you've conceded before, whether you actually hold to that or not, but you've conceded before that this is talking about white people, right? So
yeah, even if it was talking
when they say why did they not want the American dream and all those things? They want a European nation. 80% of people in 2023 said that. So 80% of Republicans.
Yeah, again, it wouldn't be saying that white people are superior. It would just saying you would want your nation to remain predominantly white.
European.
Sure, European.
White. Right. That is literally racial bias. That's what it means. That's what racial bias means.
So it just means having a preference for something? I mean, if racial bias just
one
means
race over the others, yeah, that's racial bias.
Well, again, you're saying race, but like if race is just skin tone, sure, but then if a preference towards something means you're saying the others are inferior.
I think that's implied by it. Yeah, I think you would. I think that logically it leads to that, right? You would have to.
And there's no actual like Christian doctrine or the Christian right wing doctrine that teaches any racial hierarchy that you can point to. Like polling data tells me what people believe, but like I want to know what like Christianity and the right wing Christianity and Christian nationalism. I want to know what that teaches, because like that's a different category.
So we recently seen the Supreme Court gut the Voting Rights Act, which was part of the Civil Rights Act, correct? You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah. But what's
okay? So immediately Republicans in the South went and they excluded predominantly black districts from having representation by carving those districts up. Now, you can make the argument that they did that because they want Republicans and they want to win races, and you can make that argument. But if you go to the only black district and split it up, is there an implicit racial bias there, right? So you prefer to carve up this black district into predominantly white districts. It is literally a racial bias included in it. Whether they're sitting and saying black people don't deserve to have representation or not, they don't have to say that. It's their actions that show that they agree with these things. They immediately went and did that the second that the Civil Rights Act was gutted, or the Voting Rights Act within the Civil Rights Movement.
Yeah, but what you're doing is trying to like smuggle the conclusions into all of this, right? You keep showing us what some Christian or right-wing Christians believe. That's just like, and then you're asserting that Christianity or right-wing Christianity has caused it. But that's the thing you have to prove.
It's the majority of them. It's the majority of them. And what you're doing is, whenever you go and say, well, that's not all Christians, and that's not what I believe Christianity is. There's a couple problems there, right? Number one, that is a no true Scotsman fallacy. That's actually a no true Scotsman fallacy. So then also what you're doing with that is you're saying, well, it doesn't matter if most Republicans want this, and for some reason this right-wing Christian ideology allows for these things to happen and is perfectly okay with it. Like that is promoting it indirectly by sitting and allowing these things and approving these things. That's indirectly promoting racial bias.
So
look, I understand, man. Go ahead, sorry.
I just want to point out it's a no true Scotsman would be if I was saying like no Christian could ever be racist, or like anyone who is racist isn't a real Christian, right? I didn't say that. I fully concede that there's racist Christians. I already did that at the starting, right? I gave you that the KKK had Christians, all of that, but none of this. Again, I can fully concede there's a bunch of right wing Christians that hold racially biased views. None of it proves the ideology itself is promoting the racial bias, right? So that's not a true Scotsman at all, right? So like if I say communism. If I was to say communism doesn't promote genocide because genocide isn't a part of communist doctrine, that's a no true Scotsman.
That's literally what you argued against my case. That's literally what you said. You said Christianity isn't this thing because it doesn't have that in its doctrine. That's literally what you said.
Oh my gosh.
I mean, go back and watch the video. It's your opening statement. It's the first thing.
What you're trying to do is separate three things into one. That's what you're doing right now, right? You're trying to bring Christianity, right-wing Christianity, individual right-wing Christians. Those are not identical categories. You understand that, right?
What's the question to this debate?
Does right-wing Christian ideology
you already
promote
combined those things?
Yeah, not does right-wing Christians. Does right-wing Christian ideology promote racial bias?
Yes.
Right.
Yeah, and that's the case I made. I combined those things because it was the question.
Right. So
if you say right-wing Christian ideology and I show that either right-wing ideology on its own is predominantly racially biased, or that Christianity
you haven't shown
has racial bias.
You've said people that identify as this are biased.
What do you think?
I want to know the ideology itself. Do you understand that, right? Like an ideology has a core teaching to it. Right? So where's that teaching?
So
that tells people when they adopt because
So you want to start with Christianity or right-wing ideology?
Either one.
Okay. So
you said you've been watching a little bit. I am a right-wing Christian. Have you seen me promote any racial biases in my? Okay, where's that?
That's you are not the ideology, right?
Thank you.
So
that's been my point this whole time.
I've never said that.
That's right. The individuals are not the fucking ideology. Thank you.
Right.
So tell me the ideology.
In my very. So do you remember me saying the line? I'm not talking about your grandma's Christian faith and believers of Christianity. I'm talking about a right-wing movement within the United States, right-wing Christianity as an ideology, right? So not every person who is on the right, not every person who is a Christian, not every person who is on the right and a Christian are necessarily promoting racial bias. But
I promote Christian nationalism.
When you go and support a party that the majority of the party promotes those things, are you implicitly promoting it? Right?
Nope.
Okay.
What do you mean? How are you going to say that if these people are doing this?
If you go and support people, if you You go and you support people who are doing that thing, whether you know it or not, which is the definition of implicit bias. You are supporting that bias, therefore promoting that bias, right? It doesn't mean that you are directly a racially biased person. I'm not calling you a racist, man. Like that's never my claim.
So you're saying that okay, so your idea is implicit bias can exist without intention. How can you prove that right-wing Christian ideology promotes it then, rather than just people simply possess it?
Okay, so I gave the example of the
That's
Voting
why
Rights Act,
implicit
right?
racism
we
is
have a
kind
whole
of
history
bullshit.
of things called Jim Crow laws, right? We have
That wasn't implicit. That was pretty explicit. I think those were
racism.
pretty like, yo, listen, you black people, we don't want you over here, dog. Here's the line, bro. That was kind of, that was kind of I was an implicit, bro. You just said this implicit shit happens unintentionally. So how can we know that people don't just possess it? It's not from the ideology. You can't? How do we know that just white people aren't just like evolutionary? It's just evolution that white people prefer white people. And evolution has made black people prefer black people. And evolution has made Japanese people prefer Japanese people. How do we know that's not just the case? You just said it's not intention. We don't know. So
is that racial bias though, right? That's the question.
No.
Like you sit here and you give examples of racial. Yes, white people prefer white people is literally racial bias. That's what it means.
Right, but I asked you, right, sure. But this is why I asked you a different question here. I said if it can happen without intention, right? If you can be if it can be implicit without intention,
right?
How can we prove that the ideology is what promotes it rather than those people just possess it? Right? If someone can hold an implicit bias without even realizing it, how do you determine if the source is Christianity, family upbringing, media, culture, God? How do you determine where the source of that is if you can have it without even knowing it?
Right. So without going to the specific statistics themselves, it's the point of the It's the point of the statistics, right? So the point of the statistics to show you that people who identify as Republican or evangelical Christians or both are 4 or 5 times more likely is the number they gave, but they're far more likely to hold these racial biases that are there, right? That was the point. The point of the statistics was to show you that whether it's explicit or implicit, that they do hold that position. That was the point of the statistics. Now, for an example of the implicit racial bias, things like it's often done in jobs where they create job descriptions where they're not intentionally excluding people based on race, but they find later, oh, this was racially motivated. The voter maps that have been a big thing in the news, they go and they make them, and the Supreme Court says, oh no, that's a racially biased map that you made there, right? So whether they intended to do it or not, they did create that racial bias. That is implicit racial bias.
Okay. I am willing just for a minute here to grant that for a second and ask you if I can do that without realizing it. How do I determine if the source was Christianity or my neighbor fucking Bob that I just don't fucking like because he's black and he beat me up my whole childhood? How do I know that's not the reason I'm racially biased instead of me being a Christian?
because it overwhelmingly and disproportionately exists only on the right. Everyone else in the
That's
country
bullshit.
rejects all of those things.
What? So you
Overwhelmingly.
really? Was Black Lives Matter a right-wing movement? It seemed pretty
I didn't
racially
say
fucking
it
biased to
only
me.
exists on the right.
You did.
I did
What?
not say
You just
it
said
only
it.
exists on the right.
You literally just
I
said
said
it
it
only happens.
overwhelmingly exists on the right.
It's even overwhelmingly. That's not true either. The left is constantly talking about the white
Yes,
man
it
and how
is.
bad the white man is. Is it not racially biased if you're talking about white people? Is it that the only one we're allowed to be racist to, or what? Is it let me ask you that. Is that
No,
racist?
you
Start
can be
saying shit
racially
about
biased
white
in a number
people,
of
like
ways.
all these fucking white guys,
It
they just
can
want to
be,
fucking
yes.
be with white fucking people. What the fuck? Is that racist? Or these crackers out here?
Yes, there's more than one way to be racist.
Okay, so the left wing shits on white people all the time. What do you mean? Oh, white women this, the white man that. It seems pretty racially biased. Do you only care about racial bias
don't
if
know
it's
what you're
towards
talking
a certain group? What do you
I
mean
mean,
you
you
don't
would
know what
have
I'm
to
talking
give
about?
me some kind of actual. You have to give me some kind of actual sources or quotes or things that the right wing is specific people in the right wing are saying. I don't know. Like I don't even know what you meant by that.
Okay, you want some examples? So let's go back to Black Lives Matter. Would you take that as an example or no?
Black Lives Matter. First of all, I'm not the best person to speak on this issue, right? But I would say that Black Lives Matter was fighting against the racial systemic biases. Like that's what their goal was to fight against the systemic racism that exists within certain communities and police departments and laws. Like that's what their goal was. So is it involved in racial biases? Sure, but not all the time is this inherently bad. But the question that we were asked here today is, does this right-wing ideology promote racial bias? And I showed you the ways in which it does it. I showed you the people who claim to agree with it. I showed you the history of it.
So,
if it changed, when did it change? When was this big change that they are no longer that thing that they were historically?
let me ask you a question. Would say someone that was probably left wing and an atheist said that I was appropriating because of my hairstyle, and then later we find out that my father is actually black. What would we say that atheist or that secular man was doing in that moment?
I would say they shouldn't have made assumptions about you that they didn't have information to back up. I don't, just because
So
someone is
race
a left
isn't
wing
just
or
skin
atheist
color
doesn't
anymore?
mean I agree with them.
Race isn't just skin color anymore?
Again, whether you're talking like
Am I black or am I
definitions
white,
or
bro? I don't know. Can you help me?
Your dad is black, right?
Yep. And my mother's white.
So we call that mixed usually, right?
Damn, my race is mixed. I got a new race. Damn, that's sick.
I mean, you get. I mean, honestly, like that's all people are mixed the way that I look at it, but you know, race isn't actually a thing the way I see it. But that's not the way the rest of the country sees it, right? That's not the way that it's used colloquially. Hard word for that Kentucky accent.
Oh shit. But yeah.
I love the people talking about my dirty basement too. Yes, it's a fucking basement. This is where I have to go to yell at people. I have
Fair
kids.
Like, if I was to like point out like officially atheist regimes that discriminated against, you know, racist or different races, right? Would you now say that atheism promotes racial bias? Like, what do you say to that? Like, if I was to just say Joseph Stalin deported entire race and ethnic populations, what?
I would ask how the act of rejecting the claim of a god in itself is promoting racial bias. I would ask, did they use their atheism to do those things, or did they have some other ideology to do it? No, it wasn't based on atheism. Stalin didn't do it based on atheism. He thought he was fucking God. Like,
no, yeah, he did it based on atheism. They have this idea that evolution was made white people superior.
Okay, so that's
an atheistic worldview.
That's called social Darwinism, which is not part of evolution. That's the bastardization of the teachings of Darwin and adopting words like Darwinism in it. That's not actually.
Is that a No True Scotsman you're doing right now, or
yeah?
Is that a No True Scotsman you're doing right now?
No, it's you're trying to use you're trying to use a keyword in a way that it wasn't used. You're using both definitions at the same time. It's called dishonesty.
How am I using both definitions? What do you mean? Many racial theorists, if you go even look, the Darwinian social theories, right? I'm not claiming it caused racism. I'm claiming that many racial theorists used secular evolutionary concepts to construct this racial hierarchy and justify the differential treatment of populations. Remember the thing in the skull that was apparently only in black people, which was bullshit, right?
Chronology.
That wasn't taught from Christian. That wasn't taught from Christianity. That wasn't taught from right wing anything.
Right. That was taking a thing and then applying it to a thing that it doesn't apply to socially, like eugenics and all of that stuff you're talking about. Like that is taking an idea and misusing it to make claims about us socially. And yeah, there was a lot of racial bias involved there, obviously. I mean, the Nazis were clearly racist.
That's why what I'm saying is the reason I point these out, though, right? The reason I point these out, Joe, is because Christians, atheists, leftists, rightists, monarchists, communists, capitalists, secularists, every one of them, racial biases can be found among all of them, right? So the obvious conclusion is that racial bias is a human problem, right? Not something uniquely produced by right-wing Christian ideology.
No, I agree with that statement, but all of those things you just mentioned,
debate over
that. Only in the majority of it's only the majority of the right wing, right? Like in those other things you mentioned, there's like in this country, 1 in 10 people accepted the things said in that study overall, but 80%.
The majority of right wing, right? The majority of right wing people I've met aren't racist.
Sure,
I promote Christian nationalism.
That's the majority of people that you met are not the majority of people that hold that ideology.
What do you mean? They're right-wing Christians. What do you mean?
Well, you're giving anecdotal reasons in order to say, well, the people I've met don't do that, so it's not a thing, right? This is the same thing.
Well, no, you produced studies.
I know.
You gave studies that said there was some people who identified as Christians said they are racist. Short words. But I'm showing you I know Christian
Yeah.
right wingers, not racist. So we're on even playing
So do
ground
I.
now. So do you want to show me where the ideology itself teaches
No, we're
some
not.
type of
We're-
racial hierarchy?
I know some Christians that don't do that. Therefore, I get to dismiss
The
this
problem-
8% figure, right?
The problem
Like,
you can't
that's
escape
not
is
the
that
case, man.
Christian, right-wing Christian ideology. You can't escape that. Christian, the doctrine of Christianity, every
Christians in
man
there, yeah.
created equal under God. Every one of us. Doesn't matter your skin color, doesn't matter if you're missing a leg. Every one of
Boy.
us equally
Oh boy,
equal
This is bad
value
for you.
under God.
You
That's
this
you
is
can't
really
escape
bad for
that.
you, right?
What?
So why is that written that way? And what did it originally say?
In the Bible?
What did it originally say?
In the Bible.
No, you're talking about every man created equally under the law.
That's
Where does
Christianity.
that come from, and what did it originally say?
It comes from Christianity. That's what I'm saying.
That's where does Christianity say that? Because that's not from the Bible; it's from the Constitution, man.
How many scriptures you want me
The
to
Bible doesn't
where it
say that.
references that? No, it doesn't. Okay, I'll give you the exact.
How many do you want me to reference where it says kill all the people in all the nations around you? How many do you want me to reference? Like, we can do that all day.
I mean, you did ask about the reference, so let's allow Easy to look
yeah.
for the reference.
Which
If
one you
have
want?
one, you can look for one.
How many you want? So we can
All men
go
are
to
created equally
Genesis.
under the law.
God created man in his own image, in the image of God he created he, him, male and female created he, them. What is that?
Yes, and who is he talking about when he says men there in the Old Testament?
What about when
Because
he
he's
says
not talking about
there
all
is
men.
neither Jew nor Greek, there's neither bond nor free, there's neither male nor female, for ye are all one in Christ Jesus. What's that mean? We are all one. What's that mean?
I mean, he also says that there is chosen people, right? I mean, you can't, like, when you have a contradiction to that exact thing 2 pages later, like, what point are you trying to make here? Because he says that the Jews are his chosen people and that this is only for them, that this is their land and they're to go kill everybody around them. That's what the Old Testament's about, man.
So are you talking about Jews then? Are you arguing with Jews? I'll argue with them with you, bro.
At that point.
You want me to help you? I'll argue with them too. They're they don't believe that the Messiah has already came, and yeah, let's get them, bro. I'm with you. Are we being racist right now?
If you want to have a religious conversation, we can do that. I'm all for it, man. Like, I don't care to sit down and talk to you about Judaism and Christianity and Islam and atheism. I don't care to sit and talk about all those things. But what you said, though, is you were going to give me a quote where it says all men are created equally under the law, which is a quote from the Constitution, not from the Bible. And then you gave me a quote where it says something different than that, and you took it to mean that.
Yeah, God created man in his own image. That was the first one I read.
Right. Does that have anything to do with equally under the law?
No. Did I say under the law?
Like that's talking about the creation of one man.
I said that all men are created
that's
equal under God, in the image of God. And if I did say under the law, I definitely misspoke.
But maybe you meant God.
I'm pretty sure. Yeah, I'm pretty sure I said. Yeah,
okay. The Bible. The Bible flip-flops on this idea over and over. So if you want to pull verses that you can infer to mean that, I can pull verses that mean exactly the opposite. And then we have to decide whose interpretation is the best and what methodology we're going to use to do that. So, I mean, like, that's a conversation to have, certainly. But we're not going to get anywhere pulling verses from the Bible because it's not even a reputable source for anything we're talking about here.
Just to clarify on the Declaration of Independence, the quote says, "We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness." So that is the quote verbatim, just to clarify that.
Yeah.
And like I said, if I
what
said
did
under the
founders
law,
mean
I
by their
misspoke.
Creator? What did the framers of the Constitution mean by their Creator? What do you think they meant?
God.
Because I think they meant something different.
What do you think they meant?
Yeah, I
think
think they were deists. I think they were deists, and they didn't mean the Christian God.
No.
But again, it's
all of them, or like you think all of them didn't mean the Christian God, or
I think so. I think that Christianity has changed quite a bit since the founding of this country. Like now, Christianity is basically the doctrine of the Book of John, right? Like they believe in all these magical things about God and stuff. In the past, Christianity, during the founding of this country, in fact, one of the famous things I'm sure you've heard about Thomas Jefferson is him writing this Bible of his own that takes out all of the magical stuff, right? Because they were overall deists. Like they believed in some of those things, but
when you
they
say magical
didn't
stuff, what do you
believe
mean by that?
all the things that
Like the creation of the planet, is that magical? I'm just
Special
wondering.
creation is what it's called, and yeah, I would say it's magic. It's literally like a golem spell.
Okay.
Right? He made mud figures, clay figures, depending on how you interpret the original Hebrew writing. So he made these figures and then put the breath of life into them, which again, we can get into in interpretations of the original Hebrew of the Bible, but the that's it's what you would call blood magic today if it was anybody other than Christians.
Okay.
So,
I mean,
real quick,
I get it. You can cherry pick stuff and do that. Oh, go ahead. What are we gonna say? Sorry.
yeah. So real quick, we're closing about the hour. I was just gonna ask to either of you if you want to continue the conversation. We can add either another 6 minutes all the way to. We can just add time. So if you want to continue for another 30 minutes, you want to continue for another hour. It's dependent upon both of you.
Yeah, like
It's up to you,
I
man.
still would like to hear like a part of like core right wing Christian ideology that like teaches some type of racial hierarchy, right? Like if you want to stick to Christianity, teaches this, like that's the problem. Like you said at first you don't want to get into the Christianity, but like that's there, right? Right wing Christian ideology. We can't take that out. So like if you want to keep going, I'm willing to go for a little bit more. But if you want to end it here and do closings and then an open panel or whatever, I'm good. Either way you want to do it.
So I'll let you make the decision based on my answer because I've already given you this answer. So in the literal case that I made here today was that they do this through their history, through their own reporting in these statistical studies, and through their organizations. And the fact that these things are overwhelmingly right-wing Christian groups tells you that Republicans who support these things are therefore promoting racial bias. Like that's they do it through those things.
So you're just saying history, their own reporting and organization. So like, again, there's been people that have identified as this that have done racist things, and that means the ideology teaches that.
Well, just to clarify, I'm gonna put the timer on. If at any point any of you want to stop it or there's anything, just let me know. It's just to have a time frame, okay?
Yep, no problem. Thank you. But yeah, so like when you say like,
if you're looking for me to,
go ahead.
if you're looking, oh, sorry. If you're looking for me to point to like somewhere in Christianity or right-wing ideology where they just say only white people and other people are bad and they're directly making these racial slurs and things, we have to go back a long time in history. But that's there. You would agree that historically there's some of that involved in our nation's history, right? So my question is when did that change? Like when did they stop doing that? There should be some event that you can point to or some progression of where these things were phased out, but they weren't. They just changed form. And now we have dog whistles and we have laws that have systemic racism baked into them.
Like what?
Like it's not racial slurs all the time.
We do have some systemic racism now. You know, DEI would be one of them for sure. I don't know any other examples though.
Right.
Where would you think is like an example of systemic racism today?
Well, I mean, I pointed to a major one already, but
Which one?
so they voter ID laws are also have an implicit racial bias, right?
Why?
So, and where this is all baked, so it's systemic, right? So
Damn,
I'm
bro,
gonna have to
you
draw from
just-
a couple different points.
You walk into all the ones, huh?
But-
Go ahead, sorry, I'll let you
me draw
finish,
from a
but
couple different points.
finish telling us how you're not
Yeah,
racist
yeah.
by telling us certain races can't go get an ID. Go ahead.
So historically, we created these certain districts within cities that poor Black people were housed in, right? After World War II, they famously set up certain areas where they allowed Black people coming back from the war to get homes in that area. Those became what's later called red line districts, things like that. So you have this, and then whenever you make laws that exclude poor people in general, even that also excludes lots of Black people because systemically they have been kept in these poor places within our country. This goes into education, employment. I mean, you can laugh, but look any of these things up. It's there.
I'm laughing
Like, you have
because
to sit and just say,
it's
no,
irony. This is irony right now. You're literally the one sitting here talking about Black people can't get fucking IDs, but it's racist to want Black people to get IDs. Do you not see the irony here, dude?
You don't understand. You don't understand.
I
the
do
argument,
understand.
my
Yes,
friend.
I do understand. In 2026,
No,
anybody
you
can
don't.
go get a fucking ID, bro. What are you talking about?
So the systemic issues.
You're basically
that are
here,
baked
yeah,
into the
because of
laws
the
that you asked
past.
about.
Because of the past, all the Black people today are too stupid and poor to be able to go
Do
get
these
their own
laws?
IDs.
No. Do these laws? Do voter IDs laws disproportionately affect Black people more than white people? The answer is yes.
No, it's
and the
not.
Statistics are there to support it. Go look it up. Go look it up, man. Like you're just
do you
you just
mean
have
by
to say no,
effect?
no, they don't.
What
The
do you mean by
statistics back
effect?
this up.
How does it affect
disproportionately
them?
affects people.
How does it affect them?
I just explained this to you that historically we have this systemic racism baked
Because they
into the
don't go
cake,
get
right?
the IDs. That means that's where it's because they're what? How do I know they're just not fucking lazy? They don't go get their IDs.
Right. So I'm not even going to give that an answer. We're good. Let's
Why?
do closings.
Why?
Yeah.
What do you mean?
How do we know they're not lazy? Like, I'm not going to entertain that. Let's just do closings, man. We can come back and talk about Christianity or something later.
Okay.
I don't want to get into a race argument with you. I'm not a Black person. I'm not here to represent Black people. And
This is a
I'm
racial bias
I'm not going to
topic.
entertain that kind of stuff. Yeah, but you decided to take it somewhere else, so that's cool, man. Like, let's just do our closings and be done with it. Like, we can do the
Okay.
questions and all that stuff. I don't have a
All
problem.
right, all
I can
right, all
totally
right.
go down
That's
that
fine.
avenue
That's
with you.
fine.
That's fine. So we're gonna be doing 5
Yeah.
minute closing statements. I believe that we are going to start with you, Easy.
I'm gonna go first
So
again.
I believe so. Yes, unless we're
Okay.
changing the format.
Yeah. All right. I'm down with that.
So whenever you are ready, I will start the clock.
All right. So, ladies, gentlemen, I want everyone to remember what tonight's debate was actually about. Okay, the question was not have some right-wing Christians been racist, right? The question wasn't can you find racist Christians in history. The question wasn't can you find me a poll where some Christians hold views that you don't like. The question was, does right-wing Christian ideology promote racial bias? All right. So after this entire debate, I think my opponent hasn't proved any of this. All right. So we got to think about what happened here. I asked repeatedly for the ideology, the doctrine, the teachings. I got KKK, Aryan nations, polling data, political organizations, Republicans, everything except the ideology itself. My opponent spent the entire debate proving that some people who identify as right wing Christians have held racist belief. I don't deny that. Right? Never have, not once. The problem is that doesn't prove the resolution because if the existence of racist members proves an ideology, promotes racism, every ideology on the earth promotes racism. Everyone. Atheists, secularists, progressives, communists, liberals, conservatives, human beings, all of them. Right? So the question is what the ideology teaches, and that's where the opponent has collapsed because he never demonstrated that Christianity teaches racial superiority. He never demonstrated that it teaches unequal human worth. Never demonstrated that it teaches racial hierarchies. And why? Because Christianity doesn't teach those things. In fact, it teaches the opposite. Again, every human being is made in the image of God. Every human being possesses an inherent dignity. Every human being stands equally before God. Right? That is not the foundation of racial bias. That's one of the strongest arguments ever articulated against it. So my opponent accused me of committing a no true Scotsman. But notice what I never said was I never said the KKK wasn't Christian. I never said segregations weren't Christian. I never said racist Christians don't exist. I granted all of it because it doesn't help his case. The existence of bad Christians no more proves Christianity promotes racism than the existence of corrupt politicians proves democracy promotes corruption. Right? The ideology and its followers are not the same thing. And that's the distinction in this entire debate here. The truth is that my opponent needs Christianity. Needs Christianity to be responsible for racism of Christians because he can't show Christianity actually teaches racism. Right. So he substitutes the guilt by association for proof, the anecdotes for doctrine, the correlation for causation. You know, we should notice though, because once you strip away the emotional examples of and these historical anecdotes, right? His argument becomes this: some right-wing Christians are racially biased. Therefore, right-wing Christian ideology promotes racial bias. That logic doesn't work and never worked, and it wouldn't be accepted against any other worldview. All right. So let's end where we began. If Christianity promotes racial bias, show us that doctrine, show us that teaching, show us the principle. After this entire debate, we still haven't seen it because that doesn't actually exist. My opponent has proven imperfect people exist, and guess what? The Bible tells us that too. I've shown that he never proved the ideology, and if you fail to prove the ideology promotes racial bias, then I've already won. Thank you. And I want to say thank you for actually coming through because, like I said, a lot of people say email me and they'll come for a debate and don't show up. So I appreciate you coming through. And that, gets contentious. I don't ever hold any bad blood with these things. So I appreciate you.
No, no.
Thank you very much
Yeah.
for the closing statement. To you, Easy. Whenever you are ready, I have restarted the clock, so start talking.
All right. So rather than deal with the history that the right-wing Christian ideology was literally founded on segregational ideas, that segregation was literally preached in from the pulpit in churches historically, rather than deal with the fact that it's not some people hold a racist bias in different areas, but it's 80% of Republicans who hold that racial bias, and over 50% of Christians that hold that bias, evangelical Christians, sorry, that hold that bias. Rather than deal with any of those studies, my opponent sat here and attempted all night to point to other people who are or aren't racist, or say that things aren't racist because they don't teach people slurs and specifically target groups openly. And that's just not anything connected to reality in any way. The fact that there are racists that are right wingers was never the claim that I made. It was never the point that I made. It's that these originally Christian groups that were white supremacists, many of them, the majority of them, jumped right into right-wing political movement in concert with that Christianity and became right-wing Christian white supremacist groups. So unless you can account for there's been some change along the way to where these things are no longer the case, I have to assume that they still are, and that they just changed form, which is what we see, which was the whole history of Jim Crow in the United States. It's been a thing here for a long time, especially in the South where I'm from. I don't think that all Christians are racist. I don't think that all right-wingers are racists explicitly. But I think that when you do support racists, you're implicitly doing a racially biased thing. And that is the definition of the terms that I laid out in the beginning of my opening tonight, if you saw that. As for the way that this ended, I'm not mad at you. I just don't want to get into a thing of defending why we don't know that these black people aren't lazy. Like that's not an avenue I want to take. It's not anything that is a reasonable discussion to have. So that's the reason I don't want to continue. I'm not mad at you, and I don't care if we talk more later about some other thing or whatever. Yeah, but I'm Joe, the Kentucky Atheist. All you loving people in chat, go check out my channel, and I'll tell you all about how there's no hate like Christian love.
Thank you very much to the Kentucky Atheist for his closing statement. Yeah, I believe that was done. Thank you to both of you for the debate, though it was an incredible debate. Following the tradition of Speakeasy, I will ask one question to each of you, and then we'll move ahead to the chat, to the questions from the chat. Yeah, this is my time to shine, I guess. I will start with Easy. I thought about this specific question. It's gonna be a little bit complicated, but do you think the fruits of Christian nationalism, for example, the evident racial bias in accordance to the Kentucky Atheist, would that not be proof in accordance to Christianity that in fact there's a problem in this movement, like thinking about the fruits of a spirit? I think you're muted, Easy. Sorry.
Yeah, wouldn't be a Speakeasy show if I didn't if I didn't talk on mute once. So not necessarily, right? So this is where we need to actually separate like fruit correlations, proof of causations, right? Bad fruits can be evidence of a problem, like, but that wouldn't mean that it's proof of the source of said problem, right? So like if you have like a church that's corrupt, like there's some corruption going on in church, would that prove Christianity promotes corruption, or is there maybe something else going on there, right? If a democracy elects a bad politician, Joe Biden, does that prove that democracy promotes putting vegetables in office, or is it just
Kind of looks that way today too, huh?
But you understand what I'm trying to say, right? So my answer is, in every case, it's not automatically, right?
Yeah, that's a good answer. I will actually go back to it and now to you, the Kentucky atheist. You pointed to the people who are supposed to be Christians, that you were actually saying that this is the effect of Christianity. Now, I think the whole point of the debate was quite literally asking for a doctrine or anything when it comes to these when it comes to the Christian part that actually creates this kind of racial. Do you have any doctrine that you can point to that is the source for this racial bias?
Well, I'll answer your question, but first, where is that in the debate question?
No. That is a question I have for you for through the
Right.
debate.
No. You said the debate
But
was
I
about
mean,
doctrine saying this, and it never was that. That's the foundation of your question is flawed. That's what I'm saying. But I'll answer you.
I'll give you the prompt. The prompt is, does right-wing Christian ideology promotes racial bias? So the point of my question is, I said, okay, fine, there is effects of racial bias. Okay, this is supposed to come from Christian right-wing Christianity, so we're supposed to be Christian inside of it.
Yeah.
Okay, if that is the case, can you please tell me if there's any doctrine that you can point to that is causing this?
So I can't point to many things in the Bible that are directly saying one race preferred over another. I mean, it does talk about like what is the mud peoples thing came from who was the son of Adam in the Bible that went and it was it paints black people as evil in that part. But here's the thing about Christian doctrine. Is the only doctrine of Christianity that which is written in the Bible? Or do we have white Jesus statues all over the place? When if any of it's true, Jesus didn't look anything like that, right? Like, so these are little things throughout Christianity, and there's plenty of these to point to when they talk about these other races being bad and lesser than and inferior, and go defeat these people, and that's kind of the thing within the Bible. They but hey, God kills everybody in the Bible over and over and over. So yeah, I don't necessarily know that it directly has words in the Bible that say this race is far better. It does say that the what became the Jews are the chosen people, and the elect is kind of that way too. But yeah, so no, I don't have direct words from the Bible, but I think it exists in modern Christian doctrine implicitly.
Well, thank you very much for both your answers. I will start the timer for the 30 minutes for the Q&A, and I'll be reading your questions. At Crucible Crusader, thank you very much for the $10. Says, just for the support, 0707 to you, sir. Eternal Chaos with $2. He says nothing, just showing some support. The Pseudo Master Chef, once again for the $10. He is saying, hey, clean up that mess, bro. I believe they really want you to clean your room. Robin Webster, 1968.
Yeah, that's because they didn't have anything
$2.
intelligent to say.
What are the origins of doctrine of discovery? I'm not entirely sure what that means.
What? Sorry,
I don't know
bring
what
it
she
up
means
again.
either.
What are the origins of doctrine of discovery? I'm not sure what you mean, Robin. If you want to put it in chat, maybe give us a clarification, or maybe I'm just dumb and I'm not getting it. And I
I'm
should
trying
be.
to just bear with the.
I don't know what that is off
£5.
the top of my head either.
No, just bear with the £5. Europeans are not white, dummy. I'm pink. Birds aren't even real with the $5. Reducing a person's worth to their DNA is a Darwinist midway trap. We gotta do better, brother.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. That's what a lot of that comes from. The race in itself is a atheistic worldview. That's where that comes from. The idea that no, we're just all here animals. We're just like animals. We're a little more advanced. You know, it's all based off evolution. Like, and for some reason, that turns into, well, somebody with said color skin is gonna do said type of behavior, and that's just never been actually proven.
You got any comments?
And not my position. So.
Just bear with another £5. Drop that fucking mic easy. Leba Bear with $2. Support for the sake of supporting the supporters. Limited Light for $5. Plenty of evidence. USSR rejected Darwin in favor of Lysenkoism. I think. Would you like to tell us what Lysenkoism is? The Kentucky atheist. I don't know what that is.
I don't know.
I don't know. Okay.
So what he's talking about is it's like a pseudo scientific movement that the Soviet Union. It was a dude that's
Adopted.
his name, Lysenko, right? And it basically promoted the idea that environment is what affects your organism, and it's your traits that you acquire is actually inherited by your parents.
Thank you. Just a bear
Which
with
would
another
be
£5. I'm racist against the Pope because he's not God. Jesus is. Ambush apostate with 2 working, so I can't stay, but there's a few coin. A lot of support today. Thank you for the support.
Are we at the end of them there? Okay, so we got some in the question here. I'll bring them up for you in the Q&A.
I don't never know where that Q&A is, to be honest, but I'll try to figure it out. In what way does being against mass immigration constitute racial bias?
That's a good question. I think that one's for you, Kentucky.
So in the United States, it's not mass immigration from everywhere. It's mass immigration from brown countries. He had no problem with white Afrikaners coming in, no problem with Europeans, no problem with people from Sweden. It was targeted at brown immigrants from Mexico, from Muslim countries, from places that have predominantly brown people. So again, was it because they're brown? I don't know, but it excluded only brown people or predominantly brown people. So it's implicitly a racial bias.
Well, can I just point something out here? you're looking at the color of those people's skin, right? I look at this as Mexico is run by a fucking cartel, first off. So it's like literally a country of fucking criminals. I know you don't like people saying this type of thing, and that sounds racist, but they're literally run by cartels. Their government can't hold their shit
Is
together, and
Mexico
cartels are running major regions of the country. Literally a country of criminals. And then Islam is an ideology that says you need to eliminate all Jews and Christians, and Islam needs to imply Sharia law on the planet. Another huge, dangerous ideology you shouldn't want in your country, no matter what color you are. So, like, I'm not seeing him saying, let's keep the Islamists and the Mexicans out as a racist thing. It's literally, you see what's happening in these countries. You don't want that shit in your own country. Why is that racist?
How was ICE told to identify immigrants?
Sorry?
By the way they
Are you-
look. By the way they look.
No.
Right. So look, I think that
You-
you get confused with
You identify
racial
them by
bias,
their
which is
status.
based on what we
You can't
normally
identify
consider
them by
race.
their looks. That's impossible.
No. Right.
You can't know somebody's
they were
papers by
told
what
to
they look
approach
like.
people who looked like they were Mexican. Yeah, that's what they told them. I mean, that's in the. I mean, that's the
Who
thing they
told
said.
who? Sorry.
They said it
Who
out
told-
loud on TV. They profiled people by their looks as being from another country, and those are the people that they went to approach to ask for their papers, which is unconstitutional, by the way. But yeah, so that's it's
Where was
literally
that
written down.
said,
That's the
dude?
way that they trained them. Like,
That sounds like some Reddit
all over the
made
place,
up
man. They
shit,
said it.
dude. I don't believe that whatsoever. You're telling me that the ICE was telling them anyone who looks Mexican just approach them?
You don't know this? Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know things
they
that are
were
untrue.
allowed to
That's
approach
true.
people based on looking at them.
I-
Well, go look it up again. Like,
dude,
you want to sit and just say no, it's
that's
not.
crazy talk. Do you
I mean,
think
I didn't
that,
bring sources
Wait.
for every single thing that they said.
Joe, is your
Yes, it
idea?
is. You're right.
Your idea is the ICE
So
drives
if I
around
can show
and says,
you,
"Oh,
if I can
look, there's
show
a
you them saying
Mexican-looking
that, you'll
guy.
go
Let's
crazy.
go get him." Is that what you think? ICE just drives around looking for people?
Hold on a second. So you're going to say that
ICE
this
is an
easy, right?
operations unit,
So I'll
dude.
give you the quote.
They don't just show up willy-nilly.
Yeah,
It's
right, I'll give you the
literally
quote. Hold on.
operations. Okay, give me the quote and then tell me who said it so I can go look it up too.
I just want to say, as the Mexican person in panel, that I also don't want French people here.
Oh shit.
It was Tom Homan.
Tom Homan?
What did he say?
It was Tom Homan. He said that they don't need probable cause to detain people. They can do it based on suspicion of by the way that they look.
Trying to find this.
Observations. The American Civil Liberty Union argued in court that ICE agents were apprehending or questioning Los Angeles residents simply because they looked Latino, and that was the reason that the court upended that policy that he made. It was reversed in federal court. So not only did he say anything,
so
but the court
he says the location. He said. Yeah, he says the location, their occupation, their physical appearance, their actions. When pressed specifically on physical appearance, Homan clarified, physical description cannot be the sole factor to give you reasonable suspicion. He literally said it can't be the only reason. So you should look up your own guys that you're bringing here with their quotes, because he literally clarified it.
If they didn't have probable cause, how were they deciding to? If they had no suspicion of any kind of probable cause, what were they using to detain those people?
It can't be the
courts
sole
overturned it
reason. Physical description
reason,
cannot
right?
be the sole reason.
So I mean, yeah, he said that later to not be a racist piece of shit, right? Yeah, he said that after the fact.
If someone has, when he's talking about their
When he was told that it was a
no.
racist policy,
When
that's
he's
the thing
talking
that he
about
responded
physical
to.
appearance too, he doesn't even say race here. Physical appearance could mean the dude has an MS-13 tattooed on his fucking face. Yeah, that guy should be taken in for suspicion, bro. 100%. A gang that is running fucking
Yeah, they
Mexico.
didn't take those people.
Yeah, if you come here with a big MS-13 tattoo on your face, you deserve to be detained and checked out, bro.
Yeah.
100%. And
But
even
they weren't
that is not
detaining those
allowed.
people because
Even
80%
that,
of those
wait,
that they
even that by your
reported
own
weren't.
guy's standard is not allowed to be the only thing. So that's not right. That's not what's going on. But here, let me bring up the next
The courts
question.
decided it was.
Can Christian nationalism protect the United States of America from being overthrown by Islamists?
Yes. Simple. You got nothing.
I guess
for
I
it?
agree.
Okay.
Yeah. This one.
I would just say
Was
that's
Jesus
stupid.
white?
More than
He was
likely
white as a
not,
dove.
not white. Like, you know, he would have been probably darker than me. You know,
I'd say he was non-existent. So
there's more historical evidence for Jesus than there is Genghis Khan, and you probably believe we all fucking share his DNA, don't you?
where is it? What historical evidence? Wait, go ahead.
Are you actually serious?
Go
or
ahead.
not? I literally
Give me
have
any
lists of
source
this
of
shit.
historical evidence outside of the Bible.
Yeah, I have lists of this shit. Let me bring up my list.
Right. Yeah.
Oh man, so we have first off, we have our Roman historical references that refers to Christus executed under Pontius Pilate.
Pontius Pilate.
Right?
Yeah. So
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
particular thing, I can point to plenty of biblical scholars and historians who suspect that to be a complete forgery, and that they're not talking about Jesus in any way whatsoever. That was added later.
Literally across all religious and secular scholarship, Jesus being a Jewish preacher in the first century is agreed upon. He was crucified under Pontius Pilate. Again, agreed upon.
That's that. Well, so the thing that you claimed that across all historians and religious scholarship they agree on that's absolutely not the case. That's just false what you said. So Dr. Kip Davis, good friend of mine, disagrees with that statement.
Your friend that nobody fucking knows?
Oh, he's a biblical scholar and Dead Sea Scrolls expert.
Yeah, I thought you wanted to be outside of the Bible.
Well, you said biblical scholars and historians, right? So
I said
that's
religious and secular scholarship. The broad consensus is that Jesus was a Jewish preacher. He was crucified under Pontius Pilate, and he had followers who believed he rose from the dead. This is the broad consensus across religious and secular scholarship, dude.
I don't disagree with parts of what you said, but I would actually need some support for that, right?
Okay, well, go, that
So
you
they're
can
not
search
in
up
agreement on.
Bart D. Ehrman, Bart D. Ehrman, and Ed P. Sanders. Search
So
these. Ed P. Sanders is an American historian of early Christianity and Second Temple Judaism. All right, and then Bart D. Ehrman is a New Testament scholar and historian of early Christianity.
yeah.
Go
So
look up them.
no, I'm familiar with both of them already, so I'm going to
Okay.
answer you. So what Bart Ehrman, when Bart Ehrman talks about Jesus, he does claim that Jesus existed. He doesn't really support that with anything, but most of what Bart Ehrman talks about is that there are changes made throughout the Bible that to what Jesus said. His book he's famous for is misquoting Jesus. Bart Ehrman's argument is that the character that you call Jesus from the Bible isn't actually the person that they're talking about. So I'm what's called a mythicist, and there are experts, historians, and biblical scholars who agree with that as well. So again, we can do this thing to where we point to different things and say, well, this person says it and this person doesn't. But like, again, let's get out
Just
let's get outside
do this
of,
for
of
me then.
that and talk
Just
about
Google
said
what
that
is
you
the
had all of these-
consensus. Google what is the consensus among historians of Jesus existing.
No. I think that most biblical scholars do say that. But I think that also most biblical scholars fall under what would be more considered an exegete, or wouldn't have their jobs as biblical scholars if they didn't support that. Like most of them are also believers. So like that's kind of baked into that. They have to believe that, right? But outside of the Bible, where are these historical sources? Because we arrived back at the Bible.
Okay, so you just pointed out though that Bart D. Ehrman is not a Christian.
Right.
So there's someone who's not a Christian who
and he doesn't
argues that
Jesus
Jesus
is the
did
character
exist.
that is portrayed in the Bible. So yes, he believes that a person named Jesus did exist who had followers, right? Or Joshua, really, but the character of Jesus as portrayed in the Bible, he does not agree with that it's been changed over and over the course of time.
Okay, what about Paula Fredrickson?
So he does believe that there is an original person.
What about Paula Fredrickson?
I'm not familiar enough with that to quote anything.
Okay, that's a secular historian, and Paula would say that Jesus's crucifixion is one of the most certain facts of ancient history.
David Fitzgerald is a secular historian who's wrote 4 books on the issue, who says that Jesus is mythological. So what do we do?
No. See, you're wrong. No, that's not.
No,
that's very few. That's very few that look at Jesus as a mythical character. That's very few of them.
Do I disagree with the majority of them on this issue? Sure. But I think that the majority of them are believers, and you have to believe that to be a believer. Like you have to believe Jesus existed.
They're
that's
not,
required for
the majority of them. There's a lot that aren't.
Though. Oh no! Now, if you want to get into the secular scholars, I don't agree with even that statement.
What?
I don't.
I can name off a bunch of
historian.
Yeah, I can name off a bunch of secular scholars. Like there's Maurice Casey, right? There's John Crossan. These are people that are not Christians. Amy Levine. These are not Christians. Like if you just search up, like this is why I'm so confused how you would even deny
The
this. Like,
Christian,
go ahead.
yeah. So I am wrong. The majority of them do say that Jesus, in fact, existed. They point to
Flavius Josephus, right? Who wrote the Antiquities of the
not
Jews?
someone who knew Jesus.
What's that?
Someone who that's not a person who knew Jesus. That's a church person on down the road a couple centuries.
Right, but yeah, he refers to James, the brother of Jesus, who was called Christ,
who he also didn't know. Right. So there was historians present at the time. There were plenty of people that could have been eyewitnesses to Jesus, and we don't have any of those eyewitness statements. The closest thing you have is Paul, who says he went and talked to people, and they told him this story that 500 people seen Jesus rise from the dead, and that I don't disagree that Jesus had plenty of followers, and that for intensive purposes of Christianity, that
what about the Syrian writer? What about the Syrian writers who wrote the letter referring to the execution of a wise king of the Jews whose teachings lived on afterward?
I don't know of that.
Like, there's many different historical writings that refer to Jesus.
Right?
It fits in to refer to Jesus, right? Roman historian Tacitus, right? Christus, from whom the name had its origin, suffered the extreme penalty during the reign of Tiberius at the hands of one of our of Pontius Pilate. This was written.
Again, you bring up Tacitus.
But right, no, I'm bringing out
the writings of Tacitus.
You said historical
in
you asked for historical references outside of the Bible. I'm giving you them.
There's also the Flavius Josephus
of Jesus' existence, right?
Yes.
The Flavius Joseph. Just to clarify, the Flavius Josephus was written in 93 AD, so it's during the first century. It's at the end of it, but it is during the first century.
Right. And my question was, did he know Jesus? Did he experience the person Jesus existing himself? Is he an eyewitness of this thing? He's not. He's what they call a church father later on. That I mean, obviously, Christianity in its younger days, again, it's a requirement that you believe certain things.
What about the Roman historian that literally didn't like Christians? He had no incentive to support Christianity, but he confirms that Jesus was executed under Pontius Pilate. Like, don't you look at these things and say, "Well, I mean, he probably at least as a man existed," or no?
What Roman historian are you talking about?
Tacitus.
Tacitus, right? One of the most controversial claims about this, right? So what is said about the writings of Tacitus, right? Should we trust the writings of Tacitus historically?
What do you mean?
I think there's an excellent case made that most of them are forgeries, right?
Why? What's the excellent case? You're just saying things.
Right. So there, again, I don't have everything on this right in front of me to give you names of this as you are looking at a script over there, but
I just literally went and looked.
Lots of
I just searched.
who are
I just googled I just googled secular historians that confirm Jesus existed. That's all I did.
I mean, I can Google it if you want, if that's what you want me to do for you. But Tacitus has been challenged numerous times, considered to be a forgery by several historians. And if you want names, again, I can Google it and look it up for you. But
if I have,
do you think I'm lying about that?
I just don't know why this like forgery to confirm Jesus was a person would talk so much shit on Christians and on Jesus. Like he literally didn't like Christians, referred to Christianity as a superstition. Why would they forge it to talk shit about Christians to confirm Jesus? That doesn't even make sense.
I mean, you're making the very point, right? That if you wanted to make people believe it, that's what's, if it's a forgery, right? You want people to believe it's true. If you would do that, you would make people believe it's true. That's the point you're making, right? I mean, hold on a second though. Voltaire said Tacitus was fake. Tacitus. Tacitus, the Tertullian Project. I mean, there's lots of discussions.
Is Voltaire a Roman historian?
Doherty discovers Tacitus precedent forgery question.
Is Voltaire a Roman historian?
How
long after Tacitus? How long after Tacitus did Voltaire live? Like 1700 years after Tacitus? You want me to believe this guy knew that Tacitus was born? What the hell?
How long after him did you live sitting here trying to, like, what are you doing?
Yeah, he's a textual critic.
Apply the same point to yourself. Like again, it's my position, right? And we can go through and talk about failed prophecies within the Bible. But
no, you're just bringing up Voltaire's opinion, and I'm telling you. So you think that Voltaire discovered something that modern scholars missed? Historians evaluate like men. No. Listen, this is the problem. Voltaire was an opinionated asshole. All right. Historians, they study the manuscript traditions, the linguistic styles, the historical context surrounding it, the citations by later writers. They don't just go, "Oh, I think this was forged, man. Look how this was written. That doesn't seem right." That's not what this is going on, dude. I don't care what Voltaire's opinion, dude. That's not
the argument you originally made. All right, I'll answer that, but that's not the argument you originally made. You said, how long after Tacitus did Voltaire live? That was the argument you made originally, right? And that's the thing I answered, and now you shifted to this other thing, right? So
yeah, because I'm pointing out that Voltaire was an opinionated asshole. He was a textual critic. He didn't actually do the things that modern historians are doing to confirm history, right? This is he's just a famous intellectual that, you know, and we can do the same thing in reverse, and you don't like those ones, right? The atheists that accept Tacitus and Jesus's existence.
I think it's arguable that the person Jesus ever existed. The character of Jesus from the Bible. I think there's a whole thing called mythicism. Isn't the majority of people at all, but I find it compelling. That's the, you know, whenever you ask the question about was Jesus white, I don't believe he existed. That's the thing that I hold to. And I have reasons to hold to that thing. And again, it requires pulling up verses and other things that I don't talk about off the top of my head. I don't even hardly talk about atheism anymore at all. So I don't have these things ready to go as well as I used to.
All right. That's fair. Was there another super chat there? I think there was a couple super chats we missed.
Yeah. I was going to say that we have a couple of super chats. First aren't even real for 5. What is your definition of racism? Not sure if I missed it. You want to give your definition real quick?
I think it's for you.
Racism?
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
So I would say that racism is taking racial bias and using it to negatively affect people of another race. That it's applied racial bias.
Thank you.
Applied racial bias. Okay.
Re-examination show for 5. Besides the Bible, we have Josephus, Pliny the Younger.
Oh, Pliny the
And
Younger. I
Bible-
forgot about that. Yes.
And the Bible is not just one book, there are 4 Gospels. So, what bases are these rejected upon?
That they're written by anonymous writers decades and sometimes centuries after the events they claimed to be written about. That's why I reject the Gospels. And as for naming church people who believe the things in the Bible are true, I mean, like, okay, sure. I mean, of course they do.
They aren't church. Like the next one,
They have
I
no
can see the
knowledge
next
of those things.
The next one's gonna give you what I was gonna just say. Like Josephus was not a church father.
Re-examination show for $2 says Josephus was a Jew, not a church father. Come on. Which I believe that's true. Oh, yeah.
Like I don't know if you realize this. Jewish people do not believe in Jesus being the Messiah. They are still waiting for
Right.
that Messiah to come.
Right.
Right. So their
Why-
ideology and
why do
Christian
they not
ideology you
believe that?
can't equal.
Why do
that
they not
together.
believe that?
Why do they not believe that?
Right.
Well, do you want my honest answer?
Sure.
Yeah, because I believe that Judaism was corrupted, and Christianity is the actual continuation of where it was supposed to go with the new covenant.
Right.
I think
Yeah.
we've got
So-
one last one.
Oh, sorry.
The missing mode for 5. Awesome debate. You just got the body slammed. I think it was a very good debate, to be honest. Thank you very much.
If you think that, you don't even understand the subject.
For the debate itself,
you think I lost that
both
debate?
do-
You're wrong.
I'm
Well,
not.
only
I'm
one
not
of
putting
us
out.
can be right.
Yeah.
I'm not
Yeah.
putting outside my bias right now. I'm just the mod, but I'm gonna say
No, that's
that
fine.
I thought it was a good
Whatever.
debate.
I don't care either way, man. The chat has talked awful about me the entire time. I don't mind. I don't really give a shit.
Don't
it's
don't
cool,
listen.
man.
The chat is always right, except when they're
Yes.
wrong. It's fine.
Yes, they are.
That is true. That is true. So, are you planning to stay for the open panel?
I can stay shortly.
Yeah.
I'm not going to stay for long, but I don't care to stay and answer a couple questions or
Yeah, it's up to
whatever.
you. It's up
But,
to you.
Yeah.
You can stay as long as you want or as short as you want. Totally up to you.
Yeah.
Totally up to you.
All right.
I'll stick around till
I like it. I like it. So what I'm gonna do is because I don't have my SOAR outro on here. Let me see here. Here, I'm gonna play the Bears anthem video. Are you staying too, Emmett, or are you?
I'm staying for a little while, and then
Okay.
I'm probably gonna leave as well.
Okay.
I'm
So
take
I'm
this
gonna.
time to go to the restroom and maybe take my dog out real quick.
Yeah, exactly. I'm gonna play this one. It's gonna play for like 3 minutes, and then I'm gonna drop the link for everybody who wants to join as well. And then yeah, we'll do an open panel hangout over here. But yeah, before we do this real quick, I just want to say again, thank you for coming through, Joe. I appreciate the back and forth. I love this shit.
No, thanks for having me.
Yeah, I appreciate it. All right, I'm gonna play this for everyone. Everyone go use the washroom, whatever you gotta do, and then get your asses up here.
If the Bears are in the building, best believe it's about to get real. Sticking to the facts, we don't care about your sad feels. Do some shit to hide and say it's better that you stay clear. Digging deep for specialty, we got the weakest link.